Welcome to the Dude Facts Podcast. Four guys united by their love for coffee and corny jokes come together to talk about Christian culture and the ups and downs of ministry. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy. The podcast starts now.
Affirmative.
Welcome, everybody, to the Dude Facts Podcast. I'm joined by some mixed nuts. The dudes, Grant, Ryan, and Josh, and I am Jeff. And let's just get right down to it. This is nuts. 79-year-old Robert De Niro just had a kid. I personally didn't even know that was legal, but apparently it is. So, is this slightly horrifying to any of you guys?
I didn't even know he was still alive.
Yeah, apparently he's still alive and making babies.
Good for him.
It's the other side of the equation that I'm more curious about is like, who did he have the baby with?
Nothing like warming up. It was a lady with a sweaty hunk.
Well, I figured that.
Nothing like warming up at 2 a.m. with a sweaty hunk. Ooh.
You talking to me?
The crazy thing about this is when his kid graduates from high school, he's going to be 97. So just think about that for a minute. And then if he decides, a very young 97. If he decides to make a Meet the Parents remake, starring his own kid, who might have to be around 30 at that point, he's going to be like 110. So could you imagine that? The whole premise of the movie would change. Instead of the fiance being like intimidated by his girlfriend's dad, who's ex-CIA, all of a sudden he's going to be intimidated because his girlfriend's dad is like ancient.
On life support.
Yeah, carrying an oxygen tank.
Or it could just be, instead of Meet the Parents, it could just be Meet the Great-Great-Grandparents.
Meet the old decrepit guy who just wheeled in here, who's horrified that he's still alive.
It could still be Meet the Parents, but it's actually in the graveyard.
Here's my dad. He's still haunting them from the grave.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, way to go, though. He snuck one past the goalie. Good job, man.
At 79, I mean, he's scoring more goals as an old man than Tom Brady ever did.
Well, on behalf of the Dude Facts Podcast, congratulations, Robert De Niro. I know you're an avid listener.
Yeah, we know you'll be listening, and what a beautiful baby girl that hopefully you'll still know her name in 2 years.
Or she'll still have a dad around. But at least he doesn't have to answer this question.
Boy, are you a man?
It's
been proved.
You never know.
That's not that was maybe a highly mature decision on his part.
Yeah.
Hey, at least.
Hey, it's got you covered.
I just heard he really likes kids. So
It may not have been a really thought through decision. It could have just been some dementia at play or something.
You know, he also has a 51-year-old daughter right now. So the age difference between his oldest daughter and youngest daughter, 51 years. And I'm assuming his oldest daughter probably has kids at this point, who also might have kids at this point.
So
it's modern
the kids
family
he's raised with would be his second cousins,
like great aunt,
probably act like brothers and sisters.
Yeah. You remember that song "I'm My Own Grandpa"? I'm thinking that's going to come into play somewhere here.
Well, it's not unheard of for to have a sibling that's maybe could be old enough to be your parent, but to be old enough to be your grandparent is different.
It'd be a lot of fun.
Sit on your grandpa's knee and whittle.
There's so many good sound bites for this.
So my dad's family, there's 7 kids in his family. His youngest brother was born after his oldest sister already had a baby. So that's kind of unique because he was an uncle before he was born, his youngest brother, which is interesting. Only by a few months, but still very interesting. But yeah, Robert De Niro's got that blown out of the water here. So speaking of guys in their prime, let me tell you what's on the docket for the rest of today's podcast from 4 primetime dudes right here, mixed nuts. We are talking about online church today. The pros and cons. Can it replace physically gathering as the body of Christ? How far should we go when it comes to this? How far should we go in our dedication to showing up every Sunday? Should we go to church on vacation? How important is that? All good discussion to come later on in the podcast. Also, Grant's joke is back. Ryan, our soda sommelier, he has a new drink that he's going to be trying for us, maybe a couple of drinks, we'll see, as well as a batch of fresh comments to share. But right now, Josh, in his new house that he's working on, he has a news story that he'd like to share with us. So Josh, what do you got?
You guys remember?
And guess what? Real quick, my wife is the sweetest. She just literally brought me a pizza.
Dude.
So thank you to my wife.
One bite. Everyone knows the rules.
That's what...
Worked really hard to get that.
That's right. Sorry.
So you guys remember? I'm just jealous now. I don't know if I can go on. So everybody remember Monty Python and the Holy Grail? They go to the cave to fight against the killer bunny of some Kierbanong or something weird. And well, there's a very similar event occurring in Iowa, actually in a suburb of Des Moines. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but the headline is "Dangerous Rabbit Terrorizing Residents of Iowa Neighborhood." And there's a black bunny rabbit that's on the loose in this neighborhood.
Why do you gotta be black?
Listen, I didn't choose the color.
Iowa News is profiling bunnies.
Yeah.
That's right. They just look for it, and then report it. We probably shouldn't go down this road. So,
the multitude of bunny-related crime.
That's right. We're just gonna tick off some bunnies, I think, is actually the case.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
So this bunny is in this neighborhood, and when people drive in front of their house and get out and open the door, he has bitten several people. He lunges at them and bites them. He got some lady coming out of her front door and has bit her, and people are trying to catch this bunny and dispose of it, but they haven't been able to catch it yet. They don't think it has rabies because, as one 13-year-old that got bit put it, I wasn't scared about rabies because the bunny wasn't foaming at the mouth. So just be on the lookout up there in Des Moines for the killer rabbit of Des Moines, Iowa. You guys
So
have
it's
been
kind of like
bitten by a rodent? It's not a common type of... I don't know. Well, rabbit's probably not considered a rodent.
I mean, I've been bitten by a chihuahua. They're pretty close.
That's close. That's a rabbit.
Don't listen,
Bit by a
Kramer.
gerbil one time.
Gerbil?
Yeah, I used to have multiple pet gerbils. Actually, one bit my finger.
Man.
It was rude.
Man. What was his name?
His name was Sonny.
Sonny.
Yep,
He was being a little cloudy that day.
he was. He was a little moody.
Well, that's like the only thing I've ever heard that ever happened in Iowa. So congratulations, Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First thing in history
It
that's ever
also
happened in your
sounds
state.
like from that 13-year-old's description of why he was not afraid of it having rabies. It sounds like we should also be wary of Iowa public schools.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe Michael Scott is teaching. We're doing a race for the cure.
For a disease that's been cured.
Yeah. I wonder if it's a little post-Easter, like, haunting or something. Maybe the bunny ate way too much Easter eggs.
Do you not realize I have had diarrhea since Easter's?
Now he's raging.
He's mad everyone took his eggs. That's why.
Yep.
Took all my eggs, you dyed them.
I don't even lay eggs.
Maybe they were making it ovulate.
Yeah, that's probably it.
I'd be mad too.
Poor bunny.
Well, the news is often a joke, so let's transition to Grant's sensual dad joke. It feels like it's been a month since we've had a Grant sensual dad joke, so I feel like Grant is going to really tickle our ears tonight.
I have felt deprived.
A youth pastor walks up to a librarian and says, "I'd like a burger and fries, please." And the librarian says, "This is a library." So the youth pastor says, "Oh, I'd like a burger and fries, please."
Did he get the burger and fries?
I don't know.
Didn't get a date with the library.
The librarian turns around and is like, "Oh, okay, I got you right here."
It's like our seminary here hired a library moving company. And I said, "Are they just like normal movers that shush everyone?"
They're
Our
probably
seminary director said, "No."
Well, he didn't find that joke funny then. But we did. And there's so much goodness packed in this show. And how do we follow up a quality joke like that? Well, we do it by watching or listening to our soda sommelier try the latest beverage or beverageage that he has found. So, Ryan, what do you have for us today?
So today, I was at Publix right by my house, and I was looking around the international food section, trying to find some good sodas that fly under the radar because they're not typically things we drink here in the U.S. So I found me some Materva yerba mate soda. So
Materva, that's not something that pregnant women take, right?
no, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think it's something to help with like cramping.
Soda pop. Big fresh can of soda pop.
And I have another
I feel like I used
fresh.
to have an aunt named Materva too. Named after anyone?
Probably.
Aunt Materva?
I'm thinking Minerva.
Materva's what Robert De Niro should name his daughter. He hadn't picked a name yet.
Where's it from? Where'd you say the soda's from? Where did you?
It's no, I didn't. It's from. I looked it up. It's from South America. So, and it actually has some Spanish on the side, so that's kind of neat. So I was between that and then also this DG Genuine Jamaican Cola with a K champagne. I'm guessing that's the flavor because this is not like an alcoholic drink. So it's.
I remember in Puerto Rico they had like a champagne type of soda.
So maybe it's like a similar thing.
Tasted like bubblegum.
So
I heard it's good, man.
I'll tell you what, that sounds like it might be a good one. So let's try the yerba mate soda first, and then if need be, I can use the champagne cola to wash it down. All right, so these.
I can't remember. Did we have music for this?
We didn't last time.
You're really get into that drink.
Oh yeah.
It's either this or his dad joke music.
This was cold when I took it out of my fridge, but that was like an hour ago. So now they're kind of room temp. So we'll see. Let's see if we can get a nice little can pop here.
Hi, Mrs. Phillips.
Ooh, that was a good sound.
Yeah,
Crisp.
some nice ASMR for our listeners. It's actually got a really pleasant smell. We'll see how the taste goes, though.
Can you get a good slurp on the microphone?
Is he spitting it back in? Or taking another sip?
No, it basically gargled it in the front of my mouth. It's I don't know what flavor it is, but it's not a bad flavor. It's actually pretty nice. I feel like I'm just overpowering the yerba mate with the sugar that's in the soda. No, yeah, it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
What does it taste like? Describe it.
I don't know. It's not really like there's anything super strong about it. It's pretty mild. It kind of reminds me of like a ginger ale type drink.
Okay.
Or even like a ginger beer.
So no oaky afterbirth.
No, definitely no
afterbirth.
That's good.
I like my drinks without afterbirth. Preferably. So that's a good pickup. If you're in the international food section, I'd definitely recommend. We'll give that a 7.9 out of 10.
Ooh,
Pretty good.
Awesome.
So you have a 6-pack of those, right?
Yeah,
As you
so
said earlier.
I've got 5 more of these in my fridge. So.
Oh, so yeah, party tonight.
Smart.
Yeah.
Party at Ryan's.
Oh, okay. So now let's go with the Jamaican soft drink. SOF soft drink.
So are you actually able to twist that off, or do you have to?
Yeah, no, it's a twist off. I looked at it
Okay.
earlier to make sure I didn't need.
So let's hear the sound. Ooh, yeah, I like that.
Little.
Maybe
Alright.
a nice sensual chug there.
Oh, this is very sweet smelling. Honestly, it smells like a It smells almost like a cream soda, like really super sweet.
But it looks like you don't have enough time for a rest stop. You know what I mean? drink
It's like whoever had the bottle originally didn't have enough time for a rest stop.
Sorry,
That's
guys,
dumb.
keep driving.
Dumb and Dumber, Killer Boots, man.
Actually, I think this may just be a Jamaican cream soda. Is it legitimately that's what it tastes like?
Can you
It's not
chug
bad.
it all down?
You want me? I can chug it on camera.
I'd like to see a full-on chug here.
All right, let's do it.
Oh my. Folks, if you aren't watching this on YouTube, you're missing it.
Yeah, nice.
Woo! That was impressive.
You knew it was coming.
It was not nearly as good all at once as it was just.
You didn't get to savor it.
Well,
No,
we
yeah.
appreciate you taking one for the team.
Yeah. If you have to leave in the middle of the podcast, we understand. Definitely.
Well, he has an empty bottle now.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right.
If we see that drink again, we know what you did, right?
He did not buy a 6-pack of those.
No, I did not.
He bought one, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. Let's be very clear. Well,
Or
awesome.
very yellow and clouded.
Yeah,
So
some
now-
pleasantly good pickups on the soda front.
Well, good. Much better than the Peeps Pepsi, then.
Oh yeah, anything's better than
Good.
Pepsi.
Well, now that Ryan is all carbonated up and full of gas, Ryan, did we have any gas bagging / comments on our social media outlets this week?
So I'll tell you what, we had one comment this week.
Lame.
It was kind of
That
disappointing.
is lame.
So we had a comment from our very own Jeff, Jeff Mikey T on YouTube.
Who's that?
Jeff said, "I am disappointed that no one has commented this week. You obviously don't love your mothers. Hopefully, you're not out leaving shopping carts in a parking space or something else that is of the devil." Which is true. That is
Right.
definitely of the devil.
I'm tearing up.
Jesus, juke.
That wasn't
We're just
loud
talking to ourselves in a big circle.
Yep, we're doing this whole podcast for us.
Well, this is what yeah.
That's what my wife thinks.
Yeah. Hey, to be fair, I think there were a couple of comments on Facebook when we posted a few clips of Josh's mom. I think Josh's mom's
Just
friends.
So wrong.
Yes, some of her friends like, "Way to go, Nora!" We're reaching the senior crowd now, people.
Yep.
They're excited. She's getting that podcast airtime.
So that tells me if we continue to have Josh's mom on the show, ratings are going to go up.
Yeah, she might need to be
Until Grant tells another joke.
I mean, I think that's a key demographic we've been missing, so it might be a good idea.
It's Josh's mom's friends.
They're pretty cool people.
All right, so we've lost Josh's mom's friends now.
I hope Josh has to explain this to his mom.
Well, even though I am slightly not amused by the lack of participation this week, I am grateful that whoever is still listening is listening, and that you're hearing what we have to say.
I will let you know that the average view duration for the Ode to Mothers was higher than it was, over several weeks.
Oh,
So,
all right.
But currently less views, but only by like 6. So by the time, a full week rolls around, then who knows? It could be the best one ever, the most viewed one ever.
Well, my own mom listened, and she said she loved that episode. So that's cool. So
need all the moms out there to share it around in their mom group.
I'm just thinking we talk about moms every week.
That's right.
or we just find a different crowd every
We started
week.
telling like some Yo Mama jokes. Does that count?
Yeah.
Oh.
We missed an opportunity.
We did miss an
Yo
opportunity.
Mama jokes on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
No, I listened to the Holy Spirit that day. You have no idea my internal struggle.
My mom actually loves them. It would have been good to see, like, how long can she, hold a laugh in while hearing those. What we should have done,
each of us.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, each of us could have prepared a Yo Mama joke and said it, and then let your mom rate which one was the best.
What I was thinking is, those guys on TikTok that hold water in their mouth and then they watch a funny video to see if they can hold the water in, and they always spew it out. You guys seen those guys?
Yep.
We could have just had my mom do that and see if we can cause her to spew.
Oh, yeah.
Not by throwing up. I think that's already happened.
Grant is... I think he's on the floor. Did Grant just fall on the floor, ladies and gentlemen?
That is affirmative.
Josh, talk about your mom.
He's trying to find his mind in the gutter.
Well,
You're not helping.
to get our minds out of the gutter, let's talk about online church.
Honestly, spew is throwing up, man. Right? Am I missing something?
I think all that means, Josh, is that you should just yourself as just morally superior.
Maybe I am morally superior to Grant. I mean, I don't doubt it. So.
So much good laughter. It's really hard to wrap up this segment to get into our topic. But clearly Ryan has been the star of the show. And by star, I mean he is now a big ball of gas after drinking all of that.
I usually am a big ball of gas, though, so it's not...
So we're going to dive into this topic on online church. So we want you to stay online with us. Stay tuned. If you're listening on Spotify, you may have to, as this ends, click on the second part and listen to that, because we're going to continue this conversation. There will be more fun stuff too, but we also want to have good, serious conversation because we want to give you well-rounded of both. And so just be prepared. Grant may not be composed, but we'll see after we come back. So thanks.
All right, so we're back. 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 We're ba Hey, everybody, welcome to the second part of this week's episode of the Dude Facts podcast. If you listened to the first part, thanks for sticking around. This segment, we're going to be talking about online or virtual churches. Are they a good replacement for a local church body? Can they be just as valid of a church experience as attending one in person? What are some pros and cons of online church? And is there something that maybe we can learn from the online church that we can put in place to make the in-person experience maybe hit more marks that maybe it's missing, and that's why people are going online? So just some things to talk about. Since COVID started, and during that first definite 6 months to a year, a lot of churches didn't meet. And so they had to kind of figure out how to stream, how to go online and do their services live that way. I know I was a part of a church that had to figure that out. And but then a lot of churches just continued to provide that service. And even through that time, there have been some churches that have started that are completely virtual, that are all online. So we want to talk through that and see if that's something that is a valid alternative. So I wanted actually to just throw a question out there, maybe to get some conversation going about church and its importance and our interaction with it, maybe even online. There have been some times that in the past where we've been on vacation and we'll be gone over a Sunday. And this is as someone who's on church staff. And when we go and it's over a Sunday, like, we don't go to church. We don't get up and find the local church and go to it. And I've had some people say that that's wrong. Maybe not directly to me, but I've heard people say that whenever you travel, you should go to church if there's a church around on Sunday. So I thought we'd just see what your thoughts were on that. Should Christians attend church when they're on vacation? What do you think?
No.
No? Okay.
Well,
Jesus, Juke.
I don't know about a no, but I think I don't think it matters that much whether you do or don't. If you do, that's cool. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. You're not going to be smited.
Smited.
Smoked.
Or smoked, yeah.
Smoked. Smoke, bro. Yeah, I think we're getting a legalism there if we say, yeah, you have to be in church that particular Sunday. I think we're missing the whole point of why we gather as a body of believers. Church, gathering is absolutely important. But, when you look at the reasons why we vacation, why we break away with, say, the family, part of that too is to sort of recenter as a family and take opportunities, absolutely, while you're on vacation to recenter as a family, but also recenter spiritually, as a family. And, if that means spending some time in a hotel room or at a Airbnb, doing a devotion or worshiping or whatever, that praying together, absolutely. But if it means you're just, out on the water one day and, worshiping God through just that time and his creation, that's great too. But yeah, I don't think necessarily that you have to ensure that you are in a building somewhere with other believers on vacation. Is it a great regular practice? Yes, absolutely. And we'll get into that, I'm sure. But vacation, I think we're missing the point if we say, yes, you better be in there.
yeah, I mean, Josh, your question was funny because it was should they, right? Mm-hmm. So, of course, I'm not against people going to any church. Like, last time we vacationed for a while over a Sunday was in Hawaii. And I got to reconnect with my old youth pastor. We went, but we weren't forsaking our church. And the church is from the Greek ekklesia, just means called out ones. So when Paul was writing letters to the first churches, it was like the called out ones of Corinth or of Ephesus or of Galatia. So for me, I'm called to serve my local church here in Vancouver. I'm not neglecting Vancouver. I'm just not in Vancouver. So I don't feel like I have to force myself into another church family for me to be obedient to the Lord, for me not to forsake my local assembly. Sorry, Greek is like your underwear. You want it there for support, but you don't want to go showing it off.
That's what I was thinking.
And my underwear. But normally I just pull the top up over the waist of my shorts when I'm in the gym.
Whitey Bulger.
Yeah. That is affirmative.
My daughter is trying to get my attention. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Talk amongst
I just heard
yourself.
a microwave.
That's what I thought I heard.
She's cooking him a burrito.
It's a hot
Maybe.
pocket.
Yeah.
Hot pocket. If you know that that's a reference to, comment.
rolls.
A bag of rolls.
Sorry, she's cooking dinner for us. So.
Hot Pockets?
No. Actually, chicken breast. So.
Oh, that's nice.
All right. So speaking of this idea of should we go to church and kind of thinking along those lines, is it best for Christians to attend church in person, or is online church a viable alternative? There's 3 churches right now that I know of. I'm sure there's more. I didn't do a deep dive that are completely online. One is Life.Church, which I think is from lifechurch.tv, but Life.Church. And then there's VR Church, which is virtual reality church.
Do you have to wear the headset?
I think so. I think it's like 3D, interactive.
Oh,
Does
really?
everybody have
Actually, I no idea.
like avatars where they're like in the church, the virtual church?
Well, the next church is the Robloxian church from Roblox.
For
And
real?
They say that they have 20,000 members, and they do communion and baptism with digital avatars.
Really?
So, yeah, I don't know.
And this is a Christian church, or do they worship some like robotic deity?
Well, I know they're doing
Roblox
communion and
deity.
baptism, so who knows? So I would think if it is like robotic, if you're baptizing, it's better to baptize an avatar than an actual robot that might damage some parts. Johnny Five, Short Circuit, I think he struggled with some water issues, so they're just learning.
That's true.
They're just learning.
Yeah, that was a great reference for our senior audience that's watching.
You guys that are 40 and older. Ryan, do you know about Short Circuit?
Yeah.
Grant, did you know about Short Circuit?
My dad loved it.
Robert De Niro loves it.
That's actually probably the thing is that
loves it.
I was raised on movies from the 80s that my dad really liked. So I have a lot of 80s pop culture knowledge.
Just means you have good parents.
Exactly.
Who's Johnny? She said. Remember that song? Oh, yeah.
Johnny Five. Okay, so all right, so this is out there, right? We all either currently serve or have served or are involved in local church settings, and definitely have a love for that, love for the local church, see value in it. So what's your thought? What's your thought first about just having a virtual presence or an online presence for live stream to begin with? Is that a good option for people to have?
I definitely think that with when COVID happened and we were kind of forced to find other avenues of, joining together, I think that put a spotlight on something that is, kind of one of the beauties of our current day and age is that we have the technology and ability to do this, is even when we physically can't be together, we can still join together and still participate. And I think that it's really good because I know just from my own personal experience with people that there are people that can't go to church for some reason. Either they physically aren't able to, or they're, if a lot of times there are people that are older and that are, in a nursing home or, something like that. And, they're just unable to leave their home. Having that option there for them is such a great thing to do. And it's really easy for us to do when you think about it, like technology wise today. It's not a difficult thing to put up a church live stream, even if it's just super basic. And that can go, leaps and bounds for people that need that, and that definitely, could benefit from something that way. So I definitely think it's a good thing that we're doing, and a good option for churches to have if you're capable.
Yeah, and it's not anything new either. We've been doing this as a church for a long time. I mean, I remember there being homebound individuals who were receiving like cassette tapes of the sermon, and they would be played for them to be able to attend church, if you will, to stay connected to the local church. And I mean, Billy Graham crusades have been televised for the longest time, and look at the impact that he's had. So I think there's definitely value in being able to broadcast, worship services. Does it fulfill the same type of gathering of the body? Maybe in some ways, but I think obviously there's some things that are missed, being able to gather physically, but I think it serves a great purpose. It does connect with those individuals, like you said, Ryan, who can't go to church. I think it also is an open door for a lot of people who maybe, don't want to walk, or afraid to walk through a church. Well, now it's easy. They can check it out. Mm-hmm. It's too easy to see it now on a clip on YouTube or TikTok or whatever. And, I think that it's just using what we have at our disposal for God's kingdom in a way that broadcasts his message, as far as we can get it. And with the World Wide Web, we can get it out there, pretty far. So, yeah, I think it serves a great purpose.
Yeah, I remember growing up, and Grant, were you about to say something?
No, go for it, Josh.
Well, why don't you go? My wife's about to walk in, and I can mute.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I have a weird relationship with it because I preach every Sunday, and every service is online now. During COVID, the church plant that I pastored, we actually didn't have streaming, and we chose not to. It is so easy, but we chose not to. Because once we can go back to live services, there's something just so special about being there in person. But we're also kind of monoculture. Like we were 40s to 20s, and like whatever little kids we had. And then our church plant merged with an existing church. And now it's a blessing for those who are shut in or recovering. And we have several people who travel for fire season and work in the forest fire industry. Mm-hmm. And they'll actually watch messages and texts throughout the week. And that's really cool. So to answer this question, I'm sure we'll get into some of the negatives, but it does serve a purpose. I mean, it's nice to have a record too of like the things that we do and some historical moments in the church, but yeah, it's definitely a blessing in some ways.
Yeah. And I didn't even mention, being a chaplain and being around soldiers, the opportunities that we have to broadcast worship to soldiers, not just Army chapels, but, their local churches. And so when they're deployed, they're able to stay connected to their church body. And that's huge. Let me tell you, as a chaplain and somebody who's been deployed, it's great to be able to worship downrange. But I remember watching not just live streams, but videos of, churches that I'd been plugged into back in the States. And not only was it cool to be able to see a piece of home, but to worship with God's people halfway across the world, that was pretty powerful.
Yeah, I remember as a kid back in, I don't know, maybe late 80s, early 90s, getting ready for church in the morning, and Adrian Rogers' service from Bellevue Baptist in Memphis would be playing, and it was their live feed, actually, on Tube TV. And it was, for my dad as a minister, it was kind of like his church before going to church. I remember hearing that, if you're on church staff, Sunday mornings it's work. Sometimes you can settle in and participate, but much of the time you're just thinking about what's happening, whether you're engaged in it or not. So it's hard to have that. So again, even back then, 30 to 40 years ago, and I'm sure before then it was happening in some ways. And you were talking about Billy Graham. I mean, there's that had been going on for a long time with him. But yeah, so definite good thing for churches to have. Someone's sick, someone's traveling, and they do want to still stay connected, homebound, whatever. So that's good. So what though on the other side of that? What do you think about churches that, whether the church is completely online or the person only interacts with a local church through their online venue? Is that a viable or a suitable alternative? And if so, when? And if not, why not?
It's funny because so much is done online now, to where we're at that point. Some individuals, especially that do everything online, are at sort of that point of like Ready Player One, where it's like they have this completely like different life, that isn't in physical reality, so to speak, but sort of this virtual reality. And I think for a lot of people that's the norm, especially younger generations. We did some reading and studying this when we were at West Point, just studying like Gen Z and how they don't go out as much. Teenagers don't go out on dates as much because so much happens virtually. So I think for a lot of people, they are finding that connection virtually. And I think, an online church can serve that purpose somewhat, but I still think that it can't fully have the same impact as physically gathering together. That connection with believers, that community, that accountability, that fellowship. There's just something about being together. We all know it. I mean, it's different sitting down with you guys and having a cup of coffee physically than it is even doing this podcast. And so, as Scripture says, let us not ever give up meeting together in Hebrews. I mean, there is something obviously very important about us coming together and worshiping the Lord and being physically present together in the same place. There's an energy, Holy Spirit obviously can work in all of us in many different places, but there is an energy like going to a professional sporting event where everybody comes together and is cheering for the same team. There's an energy that's felt, and it's a lot different watching it on TV. You could sort of feel the energy of the crowd when you're watching it, but it's different when you're actually at the game because you feel that energy. And I think that's part of it as well, is we need to, feel that passion for the Lord together in worship space. And it's just missed doing it virtually.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's also important too. Oh, go ahead, Grant.
No, go ahead, Ray.
I was just saying, I think it's also important too that with a church, a local church in a community serves an important purpose, and to be a part of that church actually physically, I think is like the connection of it. It's something that doesn't need to be minimized and something that we need to take seriously. And that, that part of like outreaching our community is first being a part of that local body. And then from there, we go out into our daily lives, into the people that we're around physically every day. And so I think that, it's not just attending service or, hearing the message. It's about being part of that body. And I think that's the big benefit of actually being there.
Mm-hmm. The only part of creation in Genesis that was not good was that man was alone. And I think online is super powerful. I think you can be incredibly involved online and in an online campus of a church. But and some of this critique too could happen inside the church. I'm not going to deny that as well. But there's something incredibly different. There's a huge difference between watching the church and being a part of the church. because I think that consumer mindset, like Jeff mentioned it a little earlier, like it's easier to watch a church service than to show up at church. But even out here in the Northwest, we find the newcomers who are not churched are coming because a friend invites them to church. But the people that check out our service and then show up are Christians looking for a church when they move here, or they're disgruntled with their own church. So I don't put so much stock into like online excellence to win them over. Like every believer needs to go to a church. It doesn't have to be our church. They know Jesus, they're fine. Like if they settle with us, great. But yeah, that consumer mindset. I don't want to fuel the Christian consumer mindset of, or when church attendance was devastated because of COVID, a lot of pastors found their entire worth in their online attendance. Mm-hmm. And that is so hard. Like Lifeway even had a formula for how to track online attendance. It was like how many views you had divided by how many, I don't know. It was bogus because like every Sunday I'll scroll past like 5 of my friends and I'll watch how they get into their subject for that day. And I'll watch some of their worship and that counts as views for them. I'm not a part of their church. I know for some churches that feeds the ego of the pastor to say, oh, I had 600 people watch our service. Mm-hmm. Praise the Lord.
Even if you accidentally click on their link, it counts.
Well, and I'll tell you, as part of the Dude Facts, we do count all of those views.
Oh, yes, we do.
Interactive participants.
But, it's funny that you mentioned that, Josh, because I was thinking the same thing with online church. Yeah, it does serve a purpose, and there are some individuals who plug in and watch entire services. I'm not doubting that, but the percentage I would be willing to bet is very, very small, as is the amount of people that actually will sit and listen to this entire podcast. The percentage is very, very small, but the amount of individuals who will scroll by a short video that we put online, like 30 seconds or a minute, that percentage is going to go up. Not only that, like even those 1 minute videos, I mean, you look at the analytics, people are only watching like 20 seconds of it. If that, the point is online, everything is moving so fast and people's attention spans are so short that if they're not hearing something quickly that catches their attention, or if they get distracted by something else, they're gone. And so you could have a great product out there, so to speak, and really be doing great things, and it sound really good and look really good and may have a few people that connect. But, I don't even know if full-fledged worship services are the best use of that technology. I am one who thinks shorter, quicker sound bites is where that ministry probably needs to be. And then gathering together physically in the church, that's where, the real power of being there is. Compared to sports, it's like watching sports highlights on TV. Okay, now I know what happened versus I was at the entire game and it was awesome. That was amazing.
Talking about attention spans, in that when the summer of 2020, COVID was in full effect and churches were online, and that was lining up with there's a season there where I was sick and had an infection, and so I didn't feel like going out a lot. So having that available was great. But I'll tell you, the 4 of us sitting in the living room watching a service on the TV, one, you're less likely to really engage in the musical aspect of the service. It's just weird sitting there singing along to a TV. And
you weren't standing in front of your TV with hands raised?
Well, I was, but I can't get my kids to.
But then your dog started barking.
That's right. He does bark at you. But like the dog, he would be a distraction. He would start barking at something outside. Girls would get to giggling and we'd talk with it. What do you get? Whatever. And it's hard to be, really focused and engaged. Some people can do that. But definitely not all people, in that. What I wanted to say and get your thought on this. So I've got a friend that growing up really feels like he was mistreated by the church in some ways. I don't know all the story, but it has been burned some. But for a long time, probably since his college years, has just not gone to church. And so he says, "Oh, I watch online or I participate online because I just don't trust that I won't get hurt again." What do you think about that in that kind of scenario?
I think a lot of people look for stability in life in general, but life has ups and downs. I don't know who said it, but I've heard it so many different times. Like an EKG has very high highs and very low lows, and that's life. That's good. We all look for like, no, this is stable. I won't get hurt. I don't have to be vulnerable. It's like one of my arguments against Stoicism. There's this modern push towards Stoicism, where a lot of guys are pursuing the Stoic philosophers and the Stoic ideals. It's like, yeah, you're robbing yourself of the negative, sure, but you're also robbing yourself of the positive. Like one of the things I hate about online ministry, and again, I'm not opposed to it. We do it. We push for excellence in that area so that people can participate. I think God can work through it, but online is not life. Like all those, the Gen Z that we're talking about. And praise the Lord for them. I love Gen Z. They're very important at our church. But on life is not you. It's a curated you. It's a protected you. You're only putting your best foot forward. We untag ourselves from pictures we don't like. We only post what we want to post to show the positive side of us, or even the negative side of us that might give us the most sympathy. We all have some kind of Munchausen component, right? So that's not you putting yourself online. That's you putting a curated you online. And we're depriving ourselves of the opportunities to be ministered to and to minister in the highs, and to be ministered to and to be ministered to in the lows. That's not life. That's stagnation. I'll shut up now.
That's a good point.
It is
very good.
Yeah, so you kind of mentioned it. We limit the opportunity to be ministered to. We limit the opportunity to minister to others in that kind of avenue. One of these churches, I forget which one had the statement, but said, this is kind of their tagline thing, our online church can be your church in every sense of the word. And I think there's a lot that you can benefit from, whether you're there or watching online. But that idea, Grant, you brought up the Greek earlier, that it's this body. The end of Acts 2, very familiar verses that just talk about how that early church was devoted to the apostles' teaching, to the prayers, to the breaking of bread, and to the fellowship. And the word fellowship there is another Greek word. It's that Greek word koinonia, and which means like a very deep communal connection with somebody else. And so this church was devoted to that, and we see it was devoted to that through the meeting of needs, right? Whatever happened within that community, people felt like the need of somebody else had was their responsibility to meet. So they sold stuff if they needed to, whatever. And when you read through the New Testament, you just see all these one another commands, to bear one another's burdens, to pray for one another, to love one another, and on and on and on. And it to me, it seems like there's so much, not that we're just commanded to do in Scripture, but that we have a responsibility, but also a privilege to do as being a part of a local church. And that's, you guys know, a lot of you that are listening have experienced this, that when you meet somebody's need or you're able to minister to somebody, you a lot of times get more out of it than maybe they do. Like there's a blessing that we receive when we help other people. So you're robbing yourself of that. You're robbing somebody else of the opportunity to do that for you as well. And then there's so much that just goes unexperienced when you're not connecting yourself in with a local body. And I just think that's a big thing that maybe people miss if just viewing church online. And outside of that, if people are like, listen, I don't need the church to be a Christian. I can be a Christian without it. Well, maybe you're experiencing about 20% of what it is to be a Christian if you're doing it in isolation.
Mm-hmm.
And I apologize. I was smiling earlier doing a serious point, but it's because Ryan is still drinking the Materva.
Just keeping it real.
But, those are some of the things you miss out on when you don't gather with the body. I mean, I know we're obviously doing this virtually, but, it's those things, as you were alluding to or talking about there, Grant. It is the realness of you and others, and being able to see people at all facets of life, and being able to encourage them, and being able to be encouraged yourself, and being there for the highs and lows. Like that is just something that's so beautiful that we see consistently in the New Testament, specifically Acts. And I sympathize with those individuals who are hurt by the church, and obviously think that, virtual church can be a way for them to connect back in if they're serious about their faith. But I have a hard time seeing an individual who genuinely passionately pursues Christ as somebody who's just comfortable never gathering with the bride of Christ. Like, come on. If you're about the things of Jesus, then you're going to be about his people too. Even though they might bite at times, you're still going to love them and want to be with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're teaching. We just started a new teaching thing at the church, a discipleship program called Following Jesus, and it's all about helping us understand, what does it really look like in daily life to walk as he walked. 1 John 2, somewhere in there, talks about the one who abides in him should also walk as he walked. And so it's this two-way street of, if you're abiding in him, you will be walking as he walked, or trying to. But if you want to walk as he walked, you have to abide in him. So it's the idea of you have to be with him. And Jeff, to your point, if you are with Jesus through just in your thought life daily, in communication and communion with him, studying his life and his ways and his word, listening to him, you're going to take on the characteristics and the attributes that he had. And Jesus he isolated himself 4 times of prayer. But that was it. The rest of the time he's with his disciples, he's with his family, he's in the synagogue, he's gathering with his people. And the life of a Jesus follower is a life lived in community, with other believers and with your neighbors. And it's just, it's part of the definition. And, I can't judge someone's salvation, but I back up your point and will say, I think it's awfully hard to be a Jesus follower and identify as a Christian if you're not with his people willingly. Now, some people can't, and I understand that. But something is, I would even go far as to say, like, maybe it's not that you're not a believer, but I think you're living in disobedience if that's your choice to say, I can do it on my own, whether it's online or not. I don't need the church. I can be a Christian. I can honor God. I can worship him on my own. I would say you're living in disobedience if that's your experience as a Jesus follower. Is that unfair? Is that wrong? Or out of bounds?
I don't think it's out of bounds, but I definitely think that as the church, specifically speaking to people who have been hurt by church bodies or by individuals in the church in the past, like, we as a whole, as the church, unfortunately take on that burden that those people have caused by their harm. And I think that it's important for us to reach out to those people and not just leave it at, oh, well, there's an online church, they can come and watch that. Like, no, we need to actually be trying to outreach to these people and bring them back into the body and, have that actual personal connection. I think it's there's a two-way street there, definitely, that the church can be doing more. And also, people can be doing more to actually engage with the church and not just be separated.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point that the church should find avenues to connect with those people. But the other side, yeah, something you said made me think of it. Like we just don't need to be jerks either,
Yeah.
and be churches that hurt people. Sometimes people just hurt. It's just life, and that happens. But a lot of people, even at the new church where I am now, getting to hear some people's stories. There's people who have come there because they've been hurt other places, and and some of it's just how the church they went to was operating. It wasn't just a specific person; it was the church as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something we can learn there as well. Is we need to be bodies that welcome, love, encourage people who are in hurt, whatever they're going through, and do what we can to lead them to Jesus and treat them as He would.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's our humanity and kind of human nature that causes that in the first place. And, we need to actively be trying to overcome that.
Well, here's what I think about too, like, especially with Christians with past hurts, evaluating what church will I attend. I'm going to look at some online services, maybe check out some websites, and then go to this church. And even the whole idea of online church, that's an online church service. I think that's a really important distinction. Mm-hmm. This is 2 weeks ago, I preached on this, so it's really fresh still. We have 168 hours in our week. Every one of us, 168 hours. Yet, especially as believers, we will put all of our emphasis in 1 hour. Like we'll put all the eggs in a basket that it was never meant to hold. And, a New Life Church is the name of the church that I pastor. And, it's a newly merged church still. It happened a year ago legally. We got our name last September. Like it's all fresh. And so that's why I'm trying to really set the precedent now. Like you're not coming to church. You're coming to a church service. You are the church. Your behavior with all 168 hours is the impact. We're not going to be winsome. Just come to this 1 hour, and really put all of our hopes and dreams into a 1 hour church service or streaming in a 1 hour church service. It is incredibly important. We're going to do it as good as we can and grow in that and serve the Lord and just obey Him in that 1 hour. But our life as a believer cannot be that 1 hour. It has to be the 168 minus the sleep time. But God might call you to obey Him and give up some of that sleep time to go serve a need or sit with somebody in a hole or whatever. I just think that's really important because with our online, that's the topic, right? With our online, we can just feel that. Like, why do people go to our website over others? It's because they want to consume our content more than somebody else's content. And I think I said it as a joke a ton during 2020 that we missed an opportunity. We could have had like Hillsong worship and then come to me, hey, good morning at the time, Crosspoint Baptist. Like, I'm Grant, I'm your blah, blah, blah. And then cut to Andy Stanley. And then afterward, cut to Bethel worship. And like, we could have edited together our most excellent online service. But that's not who we are. That would just be, I don't know. So I don't want to feed the consumer mindset too. Like, honestly, you don't want the problems of Christians that like you better than other pastors. And that's a lot of pressure. Like, Josh, I know that's a blessing, right? To get people who have been hurt by somebody else because they like you. But in the back of my mind, whenever I hear a story like that, I just think for now, because we're humans and we're going to fail at some point, either in a service, in a Wednesday night. That's a lot of pressure.
Well, and to speak to that, we actually have discussions about how we handle that. And there's always a response of, we're glad you're healing here, or this feels like home, but we're not perfect. And so there has to be that expectation. So we're getting kind of close on time here. So maybe one last question to begin to wrap things up. Is there something that we could pull from or glean from people who just want to attend online, or churches that only offer online, that would be a benefit to an in-person gathering? Is there something there that maybe we're missing or disconnected from that we can learn from the virtual experience?
I think ingenuity and thinking outside the box is huge. There's that maxim: if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. So I think but even then we could fall into those ruts in our online services too, or our online ministry. But I just think being able to think outside the box and say, well, how could we take this gospel, which never changes, and present it to people who might never have heard it if we didn't do something new? I think that's valuable.
Yeah, I agree. And it goes back to something I was sharing earlier, is the idea of, one, things online move fast, and the way that people consume content, and I'm just using the word content, changes constantly. I mean, 10 years ago, it was Facebook and Twitter, and, then it was Instagram, and then it became TikTok, and it's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. And it's not necessarily that we as the church have to jump on every trend, but I think it does behoove us to understand our culture and how they are reading and seeing things. And one of the apps I enjoy the most is the Bible app, the YouVersion Bible app. That app is very cool. And as a chaplain, obviously I can give soldiers physical Bibles and they might carry it around with them, but all of them have a phone, and I can have them encourage them to download an app and get them into Bible reading plans just via an app. And so, I think there are things about online church and that whole medium that are worth digging into and looking at and saying, how can we utilize this effectively for the kingdom? But it's not a replacement for gathering as the body of Christ.
Yeah, I think it's used. It needs to be used as a tool, and we need to know and understand the tools that we have at hand. But also, understand that is just a tool. That is not a replacement, and it is not the thing to do instead. Everything works together.
Yeah. And a closing thought, because I think this could kind of sound like a downer on online, and I think we're all in agreement that it's not a valid substitute if you're able to attend somewhere locally. It's a good church. But that summer that I was talking about earlier, when we were watching online, we were looking for a place to attend. I just left the church. And so it gave us opportunity to view some online before we went. And we came across this one church, and that I just really connected with the way the pastor taught. It was a church we never thought we would go to. Until we watched some of their worship, completely different than what we thought it would be, heard the sermon, completely different than what we thought it would be. And we went, and it's where we went for 3 years until moving here. And it was, I knew at the end of that first service, that's where I needed to be at that stage of my life. It's actually where I ended up getting this shirt, my Jesus Frieza shirt, which was a men's group I was a part of that really brought some health into my life. And I'm super thankful for that time. And it was because they had an online service that we could view. But I knew I wouldn't just keep watching it. I needed to be there. And if I hadn't gone, I would have missed out on some very key relationships I had that I needed during that season of my life. So you get pros, both sides of it. So find if you're not attending a local church, man, find one that not only meets your needs, but is a place where you can meet the needs of others. So do it prayerfully. Thanks for being a part of the podcast this week. I want to go ahead and tease next week's topic so that we can get some people's panties in a wad a little bit. We're going to be talking about homeschooling versus public school. And is one
who would homeschool?
No, they're a bunch of weirdos. all making their own clothes and churning butter.
Yeah, that's what my kids do.
Yeah.
Butter. I hardly know her.
Bruh.
Bag of wolves.
Yeah, so that's going to be next week's topic. If you have any comments in advance, don't make Jeff come out there and leave a comment.
Mm-hmm.
Who is
your
this
place.
Jeff guy?
I don't know. He's surly.
Yep.
Yeah. So give us comments on this one, ideas of public school versus homeschool, and we will. We look forward to bringing that topic to you guys next time.
Ryan's gonna be
Chug
doing
that
that a
one,
lot
man.
as he drinks that Materva.
How's your stomach feel? Is it
It's doing okay. We'll see in about
All right.
2 hours.
On that note, we will see you guys next week. Hey, how are you?